Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. The Last Daughter of Atlantis, Preface in Chapter 1. Atlantis was once the most beautiful kingdom in Europe, the crown jewel of the Mediterranean. But that was before the tragedy that caused it to vanish into the realm of myth. Extremely advanced for its time, the Atlantean people owed everything they had to the ancient gods they worshipped. Unlike in other ancient cultures, the ancient gods of Atlantis were very active in the lives of the people, bestowing them with many blessings, within reason, and powerful magic. But then tragedy struck. A massive earthquake caused Atlantis to sink beneath the waves, killing all those in the city. Only 2 Atlanteans survived. One was a warrior who made a pact with a fallen god of Atlantis. The other was the crown princess of Atlantis. The warrior was a lowly knight. He fell in love with the princess, but was forbidden to marry her. As a high-born lady, she was expected to marry nobility and continue the royal line. Also, the princess had no interest in him since she had been in love with one of the high-ranking knights since they were children. Desperate to have the princess as his own, he sought out help from the gods. One promised to help him get the princess in exchange for his help. Once he realized that the god who offered to help him was a fallen god, it was too late. Atlantis was destroyed, the princess gone missing, and he had been ensnared in the dark by the dark god, given immortality to serve him for eternity. The princess, next in line for the throne, had been in Greece attending a celebration when her kingdom was destroyed. Devastated at the loss of her family, friends, and people, she beseeched the gods for help. They told her of their dark brother's plot and how to avenge the destruction of her people and loved ones, granting her immortality until she was able to accomplish the task. Egypt, 5,000 years ago. The young maiden who had come to the pharaoh's court was extremely beautiful. Blessed with exotic beauty, she was sought after by many of the men at court. But it was the pharaoh's youngest son who had captured her heart and who she agreed to marry. The warm night air drifted in from the desert. The new princess, named Cinnamon, woke to find her husband's arms wrapped around her. She relaxed into them. They had only been married for 4 months, and already she was carrying their first child. Unfortunately, with 7 brothers and sisters ahead of him, her husband's chances of becoming pharaoh and thus passing the throne on to their child were slim. If it were 5,000 years ago and they were in her kingdom, things would be different. She was the heir to the throne of Atlantis, and the child she was carrying would be her heir. But Atlantis was gone, along with all claims that Cinnamon had as the crown princess of Atlantis. "Is everything all right, my love?" her husband asked. "Are our children okay?" "Everything's fine," Cinnamon said. "I am just trying to get comfortable." It was more or less true. She was only 3 months pregnant, but already much bigger than expected. The soothsayers and healers all claimed that it was because she was carrying more than one child. However, she didn't need the soothsayers and healers to tell her that. Her magic, which she kept secret from everyone, even her husband, had told her before the rest of the court knew. "I think the babies are a little restless," Cinnamon said. For the past few weeks, they had been referring to the baby as more than one. When they had announced Cinnamon's pregnancy, the pharaoh had been very pleased. Of his 8 daughters and daughters-in-law, Cinnamon was the first to become pregnant. However, this had caused friction between her and her in-laws. Many of them were concerned that the pharaoh would name her child as the next heir. The next morning, caravans were due to arrive, bringing with them goods from the Orient and other faraway places. Cinnamon hoped to find some things for the babies. However, when the caravans arrived, her eldest sister-in-law instructed the servants to bring all the chests to her. She was married to the eldest of not only the pharaoh's sons, but all of his children. Because of this, she was destined to be queen, and made sure that all the sisters, particularly Cinnamon, knew it. "Princess Cinnamon," one of the merchants said when she was on her way to the courtyard, "we heard in the last town you were with child. It looks like the rumors were true." Cinnamon laid her hands on her stomach. 3 months, she said. "The soothsayers and healers all say it's more than one child." "Well, I have some lovely things for a future prince or princess, even more than one." As the merchant was showing Cinnamon what he had, her sister-in-law came up to them, and she wasn't happy. "I want everything brought to me," she said. "I'll decide what stays at the palace and what goes to the market." "My apologies, Princess Muffet," the merchant said, "but Princess Cinnamon is with child, and I thought she might like some things I acquired in the last town." "I don't care. I'm the future queen, and you'll do as I say." "Muffet," said the pharaoh as he approached his 2 daughters-in-law, "that is no way for a princess to act in my palace." "But father, she is with child and needs things for the babies. No grandchildren of mine will do without." The pharaoh turned his attention to the merchant. "Now," he said, "show us what you have." Cinnamon was trying to sleep, but she couldn't get the look that Moffat gave her out of her mind. It was no secret that, while she was married to the youngest of the pharaoh's children and wouldn't be queen anytime soon, she was the pharaoh's favorite daughter-in-law. Yet another reason for Moffat to hate her. The fact that she was going to be a mother in 6 months, when Moffat had been married for 6 years and still hadn't had a child, was another. 6 months later. Cinnamon couldn't sleep. Her stomach hurt and she was having trouble getting comfortable. So close to the end of her pregnancy, she knew what was going on. She was in labor. Her husband had sent for the midwife, and the palace was abuzz with excitement. Soon the royal family will be bigger by 4 new members. All Cinnamon could think about was how miserable and how much pain she was in. She wanted her husband, but even though he was a prince, the midwife and female servants weren't allowing him in the room. The queen was there, offering as much support as she could since she had been through it 5 times. 3 were twins, but it wasn't the same. In Atlantis, her husband would have been allowed in the room with her, but not here. Her stomach contracted, and the midwife told her to push told her it was time to push. Four little princesses were sleeping peacefully while their mother recovered from the birth. Cinnamon was exhausted, but extremely happy that her daughters, Lily, Daisy, Iris, and Morning Glory, were here, and they were healthy. "How are you feeling?" the queen asked. "Tired and sore," Cinnamon answered. "Well, you did just give birth to 4 babies. I had multiples, so I know how you're feeling right now, Cinnamon." Exhausted, Cinnamon leaned against the pillows, confident that the midwives would see to her children and that the queen would keep her sister-in-law away. 5 years later, Cinnamon smiled happily as her daughters played. They were the light of the palace. Several of Cinnamon's sisters-in-laws had given birth, but the children had died due to limited medicine compared to Atlantis. Cinnamon had tried to help, stating that the medicine that was from her homeland was very good. But the royal physician felt he knew what was best. Now, Lily, Daisy, Iris, and Morning Glory were the only children in the palace. Cinnamon looked up as her eldest sister-in-law entered the courtyard. Quickly, to avoid the verbal abuse she knew would come, Cinnamon gathered up her daughters and took them to the nursery. "Mommy," Lily asked, "why don't you and Aunt Moffat like each other?" "Well, Lily, your aunt doesn't like the fact that I had you and your sisters not even a year after marrying your father, when she and your uncle had been married longer and haven't produced a child." "But it's not your fault," Iris said. "There's more to it than that. Your aunt never really liked me." The little princesses looked at their mother. They couldn't understand why one sister wouldn't like the other. Of course, they didn't know that their mother and aunt were only sisters by marriage. "I can't stand her," Moffat said to her husband. "She thinks she's so much better than me because she has children." "Who?" her husband asked, not looking up from his work. "Cinnamon! I can't stand her. A month after marrying your brother, and she gets pregnant with 4 little brats." "Why do you let yourself get worked up over her?" the prince asked. She, my brother, and their children are nothing." "Your brother is your father's favorite. What is to stop him from choosing him to be the next pharaoh?" "Father would never do that. I will take the throne when the time comes." But the pharaoh could easily choose someone else to be the next ruler, and he knew that. "Don't worry," the crown prince said. "I have a plan that will not only guarantee us the throne, but also get rid of Cinnamon and her daughters." The day had started off nice, but now the royal guards were searching the palace. Someone had broken into the palace and tried to assassinate the pharaoh. The rest of the royal family was confined to their rooms until the intruder was found. As a precaution and peace of mind, Cinnamon had her daughters brought to her. "Mama, what's going on?" Daisy asked. "Don't worry, Daisy," Cinnamon said. "Everything will be all right." The palace was overrun with enemy soldiers, but the crown prince and the royal guard managed to drive them off. Unfortunately, the pharaoh and Cinnamon's husband were killed. Cinnamon knew that, under her brother-in-law's rule, she and her daughters were still in danger. So she made plans to leave Egypt. "Where are we going, Mom?" Iris asked. "I don't know, my love," Cinnamon said. "We just can't stay here." if any of you have a fanfic and or short story you'd like me to do a reading on for Fanfic Corner or Story Corner, please feel free to send them to either my Facebook page, Tumblr account, or my Facebook group. I will have the link for all three in the description section. A couple of things to keep in mind. First off, please be sure to include your name or the name of the author. Second, please try to keep them short. Third, please try to keep them clean and appropriate. Fourth, if it's a holiday fanfic or short story, please submit 2 months before the holiday and include the name and the date of the holiday. And finally, please be honest.